Hello, everyone. James Wilson here. And today we're going to talk about right now, October 13th, 2024, if the election was held tomorrow, based on the data that I've gathered, who's going to win the election. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about my methodology and what's going on, things of that nature. If you listened to me in the past, I've given you my insights about the polling, how I think it may be off compared to 2016 and 2020. But in case you're brand new to this channel, I'm going to explain it as simply as possible. In 2016, the polls were off because I feel that Donald Trump naturally overperforms the polls. And, maybe there's some, I just assumed Hillary was going to win, so I decided to stay home. I mean, there could have been some of that, but I do believe that Trump does naturally overperform the polls. And so that's what happened in 2016. In 2020, Trump overperformed the polls. And there's two things that went for him and one thing that went against him. And I'm going to explain to you what my theories are. And if you're not new to this channel, if you've heard me before explain this, well, I'm explaining it again. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers. So right now we're at 69. So let's get to 31 more subscribers. That would be awesome. But there's in 2020, there's a couple things going on. As I said before, Trump does naturally overperform the polls. But another thing that happened in 2020 is a thing called the coronavirus. And you had two different types of people. You had people that believed in staying home and being safe. If they did go out of the house, they wore a mask. They were overprotective. Sometimes you'd even see them with the mask in the car driving by themselves. You got those people. On top of that, coupled with staying home for the most part, but if you had to go out, you're wearing a mask, and you're probably wearing the top of the line ones. Very, very cautious and very careful. They did that, and they stayed home and be safe. They practiced that. You had those types of people. That's number one. Number two, you had faith over fear. You had people that said, I'm going to live my normal life. I'm not going to let this virus control me. I'm not going to let the government control me. So, when they did the polling, people who were bored and stayed home, because a lot of them were bored, a lot of them took off work or they quit or maybe they decided to work from home, but a lot of them may have been bored. So when the phone call came on, they're more likely to pick up the phone and more likely to answer a pollster. Why not? Let's do a poll. I'm bored anyways. So people like that who practice staying home and being safe and wore a mask all over the place, those are the Biden supporters. Those people mainly supported Biden. So there is a bias in the polling towards Biden. But when it came down on election day and the final results, Trump did overperform. Now, I'm also going to say this. Another thing that happened in 2020 is that you had the major ballot harvesting efforts done by the Democrats. You had a bunch of mail-in votings that was going on. They were collecting the ballots and doing the ballot harvesting. So you had three things. You had one thing in 2016, and then you had three things in 2020. So the three things in 2020, number one, Trump normally overperforms the polls. Number two, you had the faith over fear versus stay at home and being safe. So when the pollsters call, that lean towards Biden. And then what masked it a little bit was the ballot harvesting efforts done by the Democrats. So what my point is that we didn't have the ballot harvesting, there would have been even a bigger polling error in 2020. And so that's my point. So now let's forward it to 2024. Well, Trump still naturally overperforms the polls, just like in 2016. But you don't have the faith over fear versus stay at home and being safe. Everyone's out and about. Everyone is doing stuff. Republicans, Democrats, leftists, leftoids, whatever. They're all going out and doing stuff. They're all living their normal lives. So now you have a bigger, higher, diversified amount of people that you're calling doing these polls. And as a result, the polls are tighter. So, as I said, I had my theories. Will Trump overperform? Again, well, guess what? You still have the major ballot harvesting efforts that are done by Democrats. And based on my studies, 5 out of the 7 swing states are going to do the major ballot harvesting again. That hasn't changed. But the faith over fear versus stay at home and being safe, that has changed. So as a result, Trump may do what the polls say he may underperform. So I have to give the Democrats a handicap of 2 points for ballot harvesting in the 5 swing states. And those 5 swing states are Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. They're all going to do it. Arizona and Georgia, they secured their voting. So I'm not giving the Democrats a 2-point lead. 2 points, I came up with the number. I don't know what the true point value is, but ballot harvesting is a major deal, and it's legal in Pennsylvania anyway. So my point is that the Democrats are an oiled machine. They know how to get the ballots out. They know how to get the harvesters to harvest them back. And they know how to put it in the ballot box. They've had 4 years of experience. Now, I've heard that, Republicans in Pennsylvania, they're starting to do it. But they don't have the experience that the Democrats have with this. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a fact. They ballot harvest, so I have to give 2 points. Now, Trump does naturally overperform, but you don't have the faith over fear anymore. So let's talk about performance. Let's talk about the 2020 election and how Trump over or underperformed the polling. Arizona, he overperformed by 0.6. I mean, it's all in here, on Real Clear Politics. Now, a lot of conservatives, pundits want to talk about the polling as of today, October 13th. I don't do that. I'm not going to assume that Trump goes up in the polls in 3 weeks. I'm not going to assume that. See, you see right now, this is an example. October 13, 2020, Biden up 2.7. When you click on it, and my computer's a little slow, he was only up by 0.9 come before Election Day. So when I make my prediction on the Saturday before the Election Day, I'm going to look at this RCP average. Okay? And it may be better for Trump. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if it's going to get better, but I have noticed a trend when you look at the battleground states. For example, Michigan. Today, 4 years ago, Biden was up by 7. When you click on it, he was only up by 4.2. It tightened towards the end. Now, the faith over fear versus stay at home and being safe, maybe there was a little bit less of that closer to the election. So that's how it tightened up. I don't know. Okay, but right now, I'm basing on those statistics. So I'm giving 2 points for ballot harvesting, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. I'm giving the Democrats 2 points for ballot harvesting. And then what I do is I take the polls for 2020 and who over or underperformed, depending on who over or underperformed, they get extra points. So I'll give you an example. For Arizona, Trump overperformed by 0.6. They secured their voting. So the Democrats are not getting the 2 points. You click on Arizona. Trump is up by 1. Trump overperformed by 0.6. So what's 1 plus 0.6? 1.6. So if the election would have held tomorrow, or in a couple of days, I should say, I would say Arizona is a lean Republican state. It's that simple. It's lean Republican. And that's based on a 1.6% margin. So that's how I'm going to do it based on the numbers. I'll be honest with you. This is a complete toss-up in my head. I don't want to be biased towards anything, but I will say that it's a huge toss-up, but I have no clue who's going to win this time. I was wrong last time. I made some mistakes. I vouch not to do that again. But Arizona, to me, is lean Republican. So if you go to Nevada, for example, the Democrats get the 2 points for ballot harvesting. They do mail-in ballots, folks. And you can see right now, Wall Street Journal has an outlier of 6 points, but you have to include the outlier in every single aggregate. So right now, Trump has a 0.2% lead. This day, exactly 4 years ago, Biden was up by 5.2. But if you click on it, guess what? He was only up by 2.4. It tightened towards the end of the election. So with that logic, maybe Trump would get increase in the polling. I don't know. But at this particular point in time, close to the election, the polling was 100% accurate. So with polling being 100% accurate, how you calculate this is you have to take 2 points for the Democrats, add 0.2, add 0.2 for Trump. That gives Harris a 1.8% lead. So right now in Nevada, that is a lean Democrat state at this point in time. That's it. So in order for Trump to lead, me to give Trump the state of Nevada, for example, on election day, or I'm doing it the Saturday before the election, Trump has to be up by at least over 2 points. Okay, so that's how I do it. So moving on to the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin is known for their huge polling errors. When you look at Wisconsin now, you will see that Harris has a 0.3% lead. Biden was up by 6.7, and actually he was only up by 6.3. It's relatively pretty close to the same, a 6 point whatever. Clinton was up by a lot. See, Clinton actually had expanded. Clinton's lead expanded. For some reason it's not clicking, but that's okay. Clinton's lead did expand. I know 6.5. Okay, but you see how Trump overperformed at that point. That's what I'm trying to say. I've said this many times in the state of Wisconsin. Trump overperformed hugely in both of them, and the demographics work really bad for Harris. She's in trouble in this state. I really do feel that way. You have a lot of white working class. You have a lot less minorities and a lot less college-educated voters. So when you look at it like that, that kind of makes sense to me. They will ballot harvest, so I do have to add some points there. But since there's a huge polling error, when you look at it last time, there is a polling error of 6 points. So that means Trump overperformed by 6 points. So that means, 6 minus the 2 that the Democrats get is 4 points. And she's actually up by 0.3, so that's 3.7. I hope you're with me on that. Based on giving the Democrats an extra 2 points in the polling differences of last time and the lead that she has now, Trump is going to win by 3.7, which is lean Republican. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, I mean, that's what the math comes up with. I'm just going by what the math says. And as I said, these predictions will change. When I do videos every week, they're going to change based on the polling. And so, right now you had 240 to 232. Let's go ahead and jump down to Georgia. Georgia, when you look at the polling errors for Georgia. Now, this is interesting. Let's pull this up. At this moment in time, Biden had a 0.8% lead. But that's in this moment in time, right? When you actually click on it, before Election Day, Trump was up by 1 point. Well, guess what? Biden won by 0.3. You get what I'm saying? So Trump underperformed, actually, in the state of Georgia by 1.3%. Well, who's in the lead right now? See, this is what you have to look at. Who's in the lead right now? Right now, Trump is in the lead by 0.5, but he underperformed by 1.3. So that's a difference of 0.8 in favor of Harris. See, that's how that goes. Now, maybe the polling would change in Georgia before the election. I can switch it back to Trump, but based on the mathematics right now, Trump wins Georgia. Harris wins Georgia. So let's jump up to Michigan. Okay, Michigan. This is going to knock your socks off. You just saw me give Georgia to Harris, right? Okay. Well, this is going to knock your socks off. Because in the state of Michigan, Trump is up by 0.9%. Now, last time, Biden was up by 7 points. There is an internal poll from a Democrat saying that Harris is in deep, deep doo-doo in the state of Michigan. I've heard of one of their Democratic internal polls. I think she was running for Senate. And they were saying that, yeah, she's up in the polls, but Harris is in dead water or something. Well, guess what? I'm going to show you the math. So, buckle your seatbelts here. So, in 2020, Trump overperformed by 1.4%. The difference of 4.2 and 2.8 is 1.4. And he has a 0.9% lead now. So that's 2.3% for Trump. Of course, you have to take away the 2% for the ballot harvesting efforts. But according to the mathematics and the numbers, that's not going to be enough. See what I'm saying? So now, according to the math, Michigan's a tail Republican state. Now, you have more minorities in Michigan than you do in Wisconsin. And so maybe those numbers are a little bit tilty towards Trump a little too much. And I'll talk about how I feel about the minority vote. It's not gonna change how I do this mathematically. But right now, Michigan's tilt Republican by 0.3. Now let's move on to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, Trump is currently up. Let's take a look now. What's interesting now is Biden was up by 7 points. That is huge. But when you actually look at before the election, he's only up by 1.2. The polling definitely got tighter closer to the election. And that's what a lot of conservatives are saying. Well, this is based on this point in time. What's at this point in time? You got to base it before the election. Now, this is not a final prediction, but you got to base it on the election. This is even money. This is even right here. So now you still have to give 2 points to the Democrats. They're going to ballot harvest in Pennsylvania. So now, when you look at the polling, And it's just based on pure mathematics. Trump is up by 0.1, but you got it's even last time as far as he didn't overperform or underperform the polls. But you still have to give the 2 points for ballot harvesting. That means Harris wins by 1.9. That's how the math works. And Trump is pulling better in Michigan than he's doing in Pennsylvania. And that's just based on the numbers. I'm just looking at based on the numbers. So North Carolina. Now, Trump won this state in 2020. He did. And I said to myself in 2020, because I remember doing this, there's no way that Biden is going to win states that Obama lost in 2008 or 2012. Boy, I was wrong. He won Arizona and Georgia. So I was wrong about that. So I'm not going to say that Trump's going to win every single state that he won in 2020. I'm not going to make that same mistake. So I'm going to look at the math here, is what I'm going to do. So when you look at the math, actual math, when you look at the state of North Carolina, he's up by 0.5 point. But remember, you got to do the 2 points for ballot harvesting. Just because Trump won North Carolina in 2020 doesn't mean they didn't ballot harvest. They ballot harvest in North Carolina, just like they did in every other swing state. They tried to in Texas, and I know they did it in Texas where I'm from, because I know I have proof. I know. Didn't work. Okay? But I'm saying here is in North Carolina, they will ballot harvest. And you got to give 2 points to the Democrats. See, I don't hear anything about Republicans ballot harvesting in North Carolina. But I know Democrats will. So that's 2 points for the Democrats. So now, how did Trump overperform? Well, when you look at this, Biden was up by 3.5. Okay, he was up by 3.5 exactly 4 years ago. Now, Trump was ahead by 0.2. That's a huge swing. He overperformed by 1.1. He still overperformed by 1.1 points. You add that to 0.5, that's 1.6. But guess what? You got to give 2 points for ballot harvesting for the Democrats, because they're going to ballot harvest. I don't care what anybody says. That hasn't changed. Unless it's maybe Georgia or Arizona. That hasn't changed. They're still going to ballot harvest. They're going to ballot stuff. And I got to give them 2 points. So that's a tilt Democrat. 0.4. Tilt Democrat. So there you go, right there. If the election was held, if it's Saturday before the election, that's when I'm going to do my final video. If the election was held tomorrow, based on the polling numbers, this is exactly how I would have my map. Crazy, isn't it? D. James, you're going to give Trump Michigan and Wisconsin, but you're going to give Harris North Carolina and Georgia? Yeah, I am. And you know what? The numbers and the demographics work better for her in Georgia and North Carolina. They just do. In Wisconsin, it doesn't work very well for her. I'm just telling you, the demographics and the culture doesn't work very well for her. And in Michigan, that's the union capital of the world. They didn't even support her. The national unions didn't support her. So how about that? And you have a lot more African Americans, a higher percentage of them living in Georgia and North Carolina, not Michigan. I'm telling you, demographics don't work very well for her up there. So that's my map at this point in time. Let me know what you think. I know it's kind of weird. And it's subject to change depending how the polling changes. So the way I'm going to look at it is very simple. I'm taking a look at this. Okay. I'm taking a look at this RCP average right here. So when I come in on Saturday, the day before the election, I'll probably do this around noon Central Time or maybe 1 Central. I don't know exactly when. But sometime Saturday, I'm going to look at this RCP average. I'm going to type in the number. I'm going to North Carolina add 2 points to the Democrats, but add 1.1 points back to Trump because he overperformed. So really, he's got to be leading by at least a point for me to call it for Trump. And if it's a tie, then I'll just have to go by my gut at that point, if it's a tie. I hope it's not a tie. I hope my math doesn't come out exactly a tie. I hope not. But anyways, let me know what you think about this video. Like and subscribe to my channel. Any questions or comments would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.